Welcome back to the channel. Welcome back to another video. My name is Kevin, Kevin, in all caps, youtube.com/@Kevin247. Don't forget to check me out on Instagram, check me out on Patreon, check me out on Twitter. But today, folks, I've got some important news and information I want to share with you. The 19 banks that are grasping for a multi-billion-dollar government lifeline support, as well as an important deadline that's going to hit by Memorial Day that could ultimately make or break the future for many. Please give this video a like, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Typically, my videos are designed in a way where you can just listen to them. And this one is really no different. However, there will be instances where I do share images and graphics on the screen, so I'll let you guys know before I put those up. So check out this first one here. 19 banks grasp for $32.6 billion government lifeline, according to reports. And these 19 banks include PacWest Bancorp, East West Bancorp, and Glacier Bancorp. And they loaded up with $32.6 billion, billion with a B, folks, from the Federal Reserve's new Bank Term Funding Program, BTFP. And that program offers liquidity. And this is according to reports by S&P Global Market Intelligence. This facility helps banks meet withdrawals even as they sit on losses on their investments. So banks having this access to liquidity, capital, funding, borrowing, in a sense, to make good on withdrawals by the account holders and depositors and the bank's customers, attempting to avoid another situation similar to Silicon Valley Bank, Signature Bank, First Republic Bank, as they are being hit with bank runs by withdrawals at a time where the Fed is continuously raising interest rates, making borrowing more costly. Therefore, people in businesses are looking to use their cash, their own capital, to fund their ventures and their businesses and their operations without the added and higher cost of the APR, or the interest rates that would be on their loans. Now, granted, the government, the Fed, the FDIC, the U.S. Treasury, they've all agreed that the banks will not receive bailouts. But instead, they're coming up with these new and strategic ways of allowing them access to capital. Borrowing, robbing Peter to pay Paul. And ladies and gentlemen, this is the beginning of what's already been a huge catastrophe, but really only getting worse, with the future being more bank mergers and a consolidation of banks. You guys are well aware of the private meetings that have been held with U.S. Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen and major Wall Street bank executives, C-suite executives, CEOs like JP Chase, Jamie Dimon, Bank of America, Wells Fargo, Citigroup, Chase. Ladies and gentlemen, this is a preemptive strike, for lack of better words, before we are introduced into this new age of a central bank that is controlled by the same entities, the same organizations, the same branches of government that are propping up these banks. But we are now just trying to ease into the new reality of just that by these larger banks, like, think JP Chase, wanting to buy up as many small banks as possible, looking to purchase and acquire the debts of these other banks that are failing. I think there's a bigger picture here that we will soon see. Investors are making their best guesses at which banks are in the worst shape in the S&P 500 and out. But new data point a clearer picture of where the pain is. Now, I want to share with you from the Hill how homeowner equity ticks down yet again. Now, as well as showing you these images on the screen, I will link them in the description down below so you guys can check them out. do an even deeper dive further into what's being said here. But I also want to share with you some information that I received from a good friend, realtor, real estate professional with Keller Williams in Boynton Beach, Florida, Chris Igo. You may have seen him on a previous video or a few previous videos of mine where we have collaborated on this channel. I've actually collaborated with him and Economic Ninja last year at Bid Summit. But Chris is a friend of mine, and he sent me the Destin Metro market information for the real estate market for what's most current, and that's March 2023. You guys may be aware, as well as Chris is, that we are potentially looking to purchase a home, more than likely. I think we've settled on a home. We're not going to go condo, and we're trying to get out of the apartment. So I think we're going to buy a home. But with that being said, we want to make sure that we're paying attention to the warning signs and understanding the direction that the market's going. Number one, for purchasing price and greater ability of negotiating power, but also the future and where home prices will fall on the appraised value scale. Will there be a dip? Will there be an appreciation? Will there be an increase? Now, granted, the home that we purchased, we probably wouldn't be interested in selling within the next 5 years, if ever. As you are all well aware, owning property, real estate, housing is going to be very, very important. And we've already seen that with large investing institutional money and companies like BlackRock and even Zillow and Redfin and others coming in, buying up homes and ultimately cornering the rental market and controlling those prices to no end. While we're also seeing builders like D.R. Horton and others building ground up new construction communities with the sole intent of only renting. Therefore, pushing us into a path, the direction of owning nothing and having to be happy with it because there's really no other choice. So I would venture out to say that any real estate that I would own moving forward past this date, I would never sell. I would never sell. Land is a finite resource and they're not making any more of it. And I want to own and control as much of that as possible. These are strategies, methods, and tips in building wealth and creating generational wealth and trying to close that wealth gap that ultimately I need to bring you guys this information. Biden is planning on trying to just ultimately just destroy the wealth gap. And he's coming after more folks than you may imagine. We'll cover that on another video, but we're looking at closed sales. We're looking at cash sales. We're looking at median sale price. We're looking at monthly dollar volume, distressed market data for our area, Okaloosa, Walton County. And thank you, Chris. I really do appreciate you sending this over. And if you guys want to do a deep dive on the real estate numbers, on what we're looking at, maybe do some home walkthrough tours, some virtual tours, some of the properties we're looking at, just let me know and we can set that up. And go check out Chris's channel too. He's providing tons of valuable information. He was just on a live stream with Sachs Realty, and I think that really opened people's eyes as to what's really going on. And honestly, there's, in my opinion, no better realtor voice on YouTube today for what Chris is discussing and talking about on a regular basis. Now, folks, let's get back to these banks. Let's get back to these banks and the crazy things that these banks are doing. Future video coming up maybe later today with my wife, Squirrel Tribe, Michelle. She's asked me to join. She's asked to join me in this video because she really wants to talk about it. She's really fired up about it. We are probably going to we're probably going to end up at the RV, at the van today, because we need to get ready to get that joker cleaned up and ready to go. We may stop by the beach. So maybe we'll bring you the video from the van so you guys can check. If you guys want to see the van, if you want a van tour, let me know. Or if you want the beach, drop a comment down below and let me know ASAP so we can decide where we're going to record this video. But big question. Check this out. Look on the screen. Can a bank take money from your account without your permission? That's a very good question. Now, technically, yes. But you've implied consent, theoretically, in the instance of overdraft and NSF, non-sufficient funds. So if you overdraft, then they're going to hit you with a fee. When your bank account gets current, then they're going to subtract and deduct that fee. So theoretically, they can take money from your account. Oftentimes, they may even take money from your savings and put it in your checking if you have overdraft protection. But again, these are implied permissions that you've granted the bank. But what if you don't? Things are getting really, really, really tense within the banking industry, within the credit crunch, the lending crisis with these banks. And, obviously, we've seen 19 banks looking to capitalize on $32+ billion of federal government funding to cover their butts. We are, if you can't tell, or if you haven't figured it out yet by now, the banks are in a bit of a pickle. Okay. Am I going to rush to take all of my money out of the bank? Yes, I am. And I'm not necessarily only going to be focused on putting it in money market accounts like we've seen the headlines here recently discussing, but I'm looking to take my money out and put it into assets, stronger asset classes, cash flow producing assets that will then in turn make me more money. Obviously, we need money in the banks because it is a fragile mental construct of this fractional reserve banking system that multiplies our money and allows it to be used exponentially, which inherently creates more risk. However, from what I'm seeing here, we could probably pull that off, and then the government would just come up with some new funding method to provide to the banks so this party can keep going. Literally like trying to turn water into wine, for lack of better words. But the biggest takeaway here is preparing for D-Day or X date deadline, which some are referring to as the deadline for which and when the U.S. debt ceiling crisis will actually hit come June 1st. But we need to look at parts of a whole here. And we got our banking system in trouble. We got our jobs in trouble, massive job loss. Even though jobs created numbers continuously go up, hours worked continuously go down. We're in a recession. The brink of a depression. All the while, we are experiencing a possible default on our government's debt that could have impacts to student loan forgiveness, the IRS, the Internal Revenue Service, rescinding funding to the IRS, delaying tax returns for anybody still waiting. Social Security Administration could take a hit potentially and probably making it a temporary delay on those receiving their benefits or applying for benefits. SNAP, food stamps, supplemental nutrition assistance programs are on the list as well as being potentially affected by these problems that Janet Yellen, the U.S. Treasury, both sides of the aisle within Congress, and Biden and the Biden administration kind of sitting on their hands and twiddling their thumbs while people are waiting for the hammer to drop, the shoe to drop on what's going to happen. But again, parts of a whole. We've also got our own economies within economies. When we look at the economic macro or microeconomic structure of this country, but the lifeblood. Now, granted, it's the hardworking blue collar workers that are out there that have built this country and keep it running. We got to remember we got farmers out there and their inputs that ultimately produce what you and I consume. Food, not only our food, but our food's food. But then oftentimes a lot of this gets exported, but then we import more. Whole nother story. We can get into that in another video. Touchy subject, I know. All the while they're trying to do away with this and then we'll just eat bugs. It's crazy stuff. But it says here that, I'll put it on the screen so you guys can see it. Business Insider shares that it will be really tough for trucking companies to stay in business if things don't pick up by Memorial Day. And this is according to the American Trucking Association. and American Trucking Association is the latest to sound the alarm over a freight recession gripping the U.S., saying it will be tough for trucking companies to stay afloat if the slump in freight rates does not subside soon. And it also says that if things don't pick up by Memorial Day, analysts expect the freight market to stay around current levels for the rest of the year. And that will be really tough for a lot of carriers to stay in business. So, ladies and gentlemen, this is not by any means me trying to incite fear or promote panic or add stress or anxiety, but these are the facts. This is what's happening. We need to be aware and also realize that how each of these could potentially have negative impacts on other industries, on our jobs, on our income, on our food supply, on the availability, the emptiness of shelves, the possibility of shortages, the collapse of the banking system, the unemployment levels skyrocketing and shooting through the roof, yada, yada, yada. Like the list goes on and on. We need to be working together. We need to be planning. We need to be preparing for this hitting the fan, for lack of better words. Now, Michelle and I, we had a conversation yesterday, and I'm gonna show you guys a clip where we were driving back from Atlanta yesterday, and we were getting really into not only the discussion and talks of what's happening and our strategies moving forward, but also reviewing the comments and questions and emails and messages that are coming through from you guys. And I want to share this with you so you guys can see it. We'll make this video short. I don't want it to be too long, but if you guys want to deep dive into this and you want to have these discussions and conversations with us without the glossy filter of this platform that prevents us from really telling you guys exactly what we really want to tell you and sharing with you the real truth and ultimately working together and exposing you all to the strategies that we are implementing on our own moving forward to make sure that we can survive this as best possible, then by all means, please check us out. We're on Patreon, patreon.com/Kevin247. I'll put a link down below. But check out this clip. It is edited to condense it, so it's not necessarily going to be exactly how you see it, but it was probably about a 30 to 40 minute conversation that we had that I think a lot of people are really going to want to know more about this. But I do think it's going to be specific to those people who want it. So I'm not going to waste time throwing it up on YouTube because I don't think everybody's interested. But for those who are, by all means, come check us out. And we're going to be having more of these conversations. We're going to be going into other topics of discussion, other important matters, many of which we know that we would not be able to discuss here without having to try to mince words and dance around certain topics and speak in code and avoid suppression and restriction and censorship. So check this out. I really do appreciate you guys watching, and I'll be back real soon. Kevin, all caps, youtube.com/@Kevin247. You guys take care. Be safe. Bye. Now, this one is a big problem for me.
Yeah.
Because
U.S. debt default and new approved budget.
U.S. debt default and new approved budget. So yeah, that's ultimately what we're up against now. And the key is that, it's not isolated to just Social Security.
Oh, so the next thing we got on here, we have banks closed and credit cards shut off.
Now, this one is a big problem for me.
Yeah.
Because yes, Janet Yellen has been in communication with the private banks, the CEOs, JP Morgan Chase, Jamie Dimon, Bank of America, Ryan Moynihan, Wells Fargo, Citigroup, the big Wall Street banks. They're in talks because obviously this is going to have an impact on our overall economy. But the idea that the banks will shut down, that would cause such a catastrophic disruption to our entire country. It will be far worse than anything we have ever seen ever before.
Now, let me go devil's advocate on this. Credit cards being shut off, think about it this way. Let's say the banks do close and all you have left are to use your credit cards because you can't go pull money out. You can't do anything else. You have to use your credit cards. What if those same people that are using credit cards are the ones who can never pay the bill? then credit card companies have all this money going out and nothing coming in. So to protect themselves, they have to stop their credit cards. Just like, what is it? The three banks, Signature Bank, Silicon Valley Bank, and whatever else, they couldn't stay going because of how many people were pulling their money out. It's the same kind of thing, but flip. All these people spending the money, and the credit card companies aren't able to keep up with paying the bills that the people are running up.
That now, after all of that work, they would actually allow the country to fall apart and shut down.
Mm-hmm.
But I can guarantee you that if our country...
And at the same time, there is that huge push for taking away of 2A. Okay, yes, they can. Plain and simple. Yes, they can. People can't afford gold.
I heard from a reliable source.
I heard from a reliable source.
Nobody can afford gold.
And I don't think you realize what he said, but I did. People want to hear what they want. People want to hear what they want to hear. They want you to lie to them. All right, cool. Lie to them. Tell them exactly what it is that they want to hear, and then the next breath, explain to them why that's horseshit. I don't understand why you'd ever want to be part of the masses when you can be not. But that's just me.
They don't know any better. They're blind. They're sheep. They're asleep.
So what you sent was, it says, there's a comment on your direct deposit delays, Social Security debt default insurance video. That means they have been pocketing the Social Security from day one. It should be there. Well, Social Security shouldn't be used to pay debt, right? Social Security is supposed to be used for the people. What video is that from? Direct deposit delays, Social Security debt default insurance. Nothing makes sense. Pocketing Social Security would mean the Social Security is not getting paid out to the people. If you're in debt for something, that's not Social Security money that's supposed to be used for debt anyway. So those are two totally different things, correct?
The Social Security Trust Fund is scheduled to have a shortfall and ultimately not be able to pay full benefits. They're talking like 75, 80%.
So that's my phone blinding you. Sorry. You on your W-2, it takes out your Social Security, it takes out your other taxes, whatever else. Then that goes into the Social Security fund. And then when you are old enough to receive Social Security, you're basically paid back the money that they held along those lines, right? But the problem is that there are more people retiring now and pulling Social Security.
Then you got the difference of people who retire early and draw early, and they get less of their benefits versus waiting till full retirement age and getting more. But then also the fact that they're living much longer.
Oh yeah, people are living much longer, so you're getting paid out much longer than was expected when Social Security first went into play, right?
Then you got to think. They're using old money, old income to pay new bills.
Yes.
Think about trying to pay your bills today with the wages you earned 15 years ago.
Not possible. It's impossible. So
would you rather spend the next
2 weeks?
2 weeks preparing, or would you rather wait till June 1, get the bad news and read the headline like, oh my God, first time in history,
and then be, oh, what do I do? What do I do? Panic then when you have 2 weeks to prepare for it, as opposed to last second panic.
You also got to think, if they can't come to an agreement on that budget, then the same people that would be employed to do that work, to send those notices,
they're not going to be there.
Exactly.
They're not going to have a job.
Exactly.
Oh, that's a catch-22, right? And that's what the catch-22 basically is.
Basically,
I'm pretty sure that's how that works.